Hello everyone, it's Fiona and welcome back to my channel, Croeso Eva's channel, and welcome to my December reading wrap-up. I had such a great reading month in December. I read 12 books, 2 were DNFs, but other than that there was one flop and everything else was, mostly everything else I should say, was 4 stars and above, and I would call that an absolute win. It was a fantastic reading month. It's pitch black outside. December finished a whole week ago, but it's happening. Also, apparently I just totally forgot that making notes about the books was a thing that I do. So I didn't do that at all this month. So basically, I have no idea what I'm going to say about the books. Probably not a lot. A lot of words with not a lot of meaning, but it's fine. I'm going to do my best. The month started off with a surprisingly wonderful read, or a wonderful surprise of a read, I could say, called Orphans of the Storm by Celia Imrie. This is a book that I got from the library. I talked about it quite a lot more in the Library Diaries video, episode 1. But it's not a book that I was aware of. I just picked it up in the library on a whim and I really enjoyed this. I did read the vast majority of it in November, but I finished it on the 1st of December. So we're going back quite a few weeks now, but basically we're following a young woman called Marcella who lives, I think, in Paris, definitely in France, in the early 1900s, and she's in an abusive and very toxic marriage with her husband. She also has 2 children, 2 young children. We find out quite early on that he has essentially kidnapped the children in retaliation of her filing for a divorce. And then as the book moves on, so that kind of happens at the start, and then we go back however many years to when she first came to Paris because she was Italian, met her husband and they had their 2 children, and it moves through all these different timelines and I think a few different POVs too, and then he boards the Titanic with the 2 children, which obviously sinks. Oh, it was a brilliantly written story. I thought it was fictional and then I got to the end and found out that it was based on a true story. Marcella was a real person and her 2 children and her husband were real people too, and it was all real experiences, which made it even better. But it was written in such a way that it was, they felt like characters, which I know people normally say it's good if a character feels real, but it's kind of the other way around. But it just worked so well. It was brilliantly done, and I gave that 4 stars. And then I read this book, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor. This was a set book for my uni course and I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4 stars as well. It's about, oh god, what year is it in? I can't remember what year it's set in, but it's during slavery times. So they're working on a cotton plantation, or no, are they? They're not. They have cotton on their land. They have a lot of land. They're a black family. So our main character is Cassie. They're living on a farm in Mississippi, and it's all told through Cassie's perspective. She has an older brother and some younger brothers, and she lives with her mum and her grandma, and her dad does live there but he works away. She's growing up learning, I can't remember how old she is. God, I'm doing a terrible job of this today. But basically we're following her as she starts to learn that white people don't treat black people nicely, and that's the long and short of it. But it's done in such a great way. It's accessible to young people, and it really shines a light on the experience of a young black person, of a black child, and them coming to terms with the fact that people don't treat us nicely. Discrimination, basically. She's discovering racism and discrimination, and it's horrible, but it's really moving and it's really well written for a young audience. I spoke horribly about that, but it's a book that I probably wouldn't have picked up. I'd never heard of it. I picked it up because I had to, and I'm really glad I did. I really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. Next, I had another 4-star read, which is just wild, 3 in a row. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. I have since returned this to my sister who I was borrowing it from. So this is the 2nd book in the Harry Potter series, and I really enjoyed this one. I definitely enjoyed it more than the first one. It felt a little bit more mature, I think, and I just enjoyed the story. For me, it really helps having seen film or TV adaptations of books but not knowing them well, and then reading the book, because I can really picture the characters so much better. So I was picturing all the actors who I know in Harry Potter. I've never really watched them properly, but I know what they look like, and that really helps me to visualise the scenes and picture what's going on. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I have since picked up the rest of the series from my sister, so I will be finishing it in due course, although it will probably take a really long time. Then I read a book which I didn't love as much, which was People Person by Candice Carty-Williams. This I read in my scavenger hunt blog, and it just didn't kind of hit the way I thought it was going to. When I read Queenie a few years back, I really loved it, and this one just didn't meet that same mark. We're following 5 half siblings who don't really know each other, apart from 2 of them who are full siblings. I don't really like the use of the words full and half, but 5 siblings who all have the same dad, and most have different mums. Their dad was and is a huge player and just was getting around and was basically a terrible father. And then there's a bit of a catastrophe that happens at the beginning of the book that brings all of them together, and then we move through the rest of the book with that first catastrophe still being the main focal point, but then it moves into being about their relationships and all of that stuff. I mean, I liked it, but did I? I don't know. All of the characters were just not nice. I think I liked Danny, but other than that I didn't really like any of them. I did quite like Dimple, she's kind of like the main character, but most of her siblings just weren't nice to her. And the like catastrophic event that I mentioned just was so like, it just completely felt like the author's gone, okay, I need to think of a way, something to happen to bring all these people together, I'll just do this. And it was just a bit wild, like totally just done for the point of setting up the rest of the story. But once you look past that, like, it's fine. I don't know, I've like I said, I'm doing a horrible job of this today, but this book was just fine. I can't really say much more than that on it. In case I didn't mention, I gave this 3.25 stars. Oh, I haven't got that one out. Next I read something totally different called Gangsters in a Glow by Peggy Talverin. This is a Welsh learner book. I listened to the audiobook of it back in August, I think, and didn't follow the story brilliantly, but I just really enjoyed listening to the Welsh language again. Yeah, really enjoyed that. So I picked up a selection of Welsh learner books from a publisher I found and called Atebol, and this is the first one I read, and I really enjoyed it. It took me a couple of hours to get through because I was doing quite a lot of searching for words and stuff, but I was really enjoying it, and I really found that when I got to the end of it, I felt a lot more fluent in my mind than I did at the beginning. Like I was remembering more stuff, even if it hadn't come up yet, but just because I was in the zone of Welsh, because I was really good at Welsh at school. I did Welsh A-level and I really enjoyed it. I just don't use it anymore, and I don't even see it or hear it around anymore where I live now, so it's really nice to kind of get back into it because I love Welsh and I really don't want to lose it completely, but I just don't really get the opportunity to use it and practice it now. So I made the opportunity for myself instead, and I gave this a nice 4 stars as well. And then I finished my first audiobook of the month, which was The Couple at Number 9 by Claire Douglas. I enjoyed this so much more than the other Claire Douglas book I've read. I think The Sisters? I don't think I have it anymore. I didn't really like that one that I read October time last year, I think. But this one, I thought it was brilliant. I was really into it. The only thing is, I remember I was driving to my friend's house and it was like a 2-hour drive, and I don't always love listening to an audiobook on a long drive, because if I need to have my sat nav on, it interrupts the book quite a lot. But I was really enjoying the audiobook, so I just put it on anyway. And right as I got right into the city centre was when something really crazy was happening, and I was like, I can't pay attention to what's going on, I'm lost, and there are so many instructions and I'm confused. So when I got back in the car the next day to drive home, I put it back a chapter so that I could figure out what was going on. But yeah, I really loved this book. We're following, let's see if I can remember, Safi, and well, it's mainly about Safi and her husband Tom. Can you hear that dog? her and her husband Tom have inherited her gran's old cottage, and she's always had a really, really fantastic relationship with her gran. Her mum less so. Her mum lives in Spain at the moment, and her mum didn't always have a great relationship with her gran, but Safi really, really, really does. So that's all lovely, and they inherit this cottage, and then basically they're having some home renovations done, and 2 bodies get dug up in the garden by the builders, and the story moves on from there. But it was just so good. I really, really enjoyed this one, and I would definitely recommend it. I think I would definitely give Claire Douglas another go now, despite not loving the other one I've read. Because I just, oh man, I really like this one. I gave it 4.25 stars. So that was the highest rated book for me so far in the month. Then a different story happened. The main flop of the month, or at least the first flop of the month, Betting on You by Lynn Painter, which was such a shame because I read The Do-Over a few months ago and I loved The Do-Over. I really enjoyed it. And then, yeah, people always say that Better Than the Movies is her best one. I think it's definitely her most popular. But the synopsis of Better Than the Movies doesn't really appeal to me. Out of the two, this one did way more. Out of this one and Better Than the Movies, after I'd already read The Do-Over. So I went for this one. But yeah, I did not like this. The characters were just so immature, honestly. I can't really remember what I didn't like about it, but there was a lot that I didn't like and not a lot that I did like. The characters were so immature, and I know it's young adult fiction, so they're not going to be super grown up, but I just didn't really like them. And I didn't love them as a couple, I didn't love them as individuals, and I can't remember at all, but I know that I didn't like it, and I gave it 2 stars. I probably should have DNF'd it, but I wanted to keep going, see if it would redeem itself, and it didn't really. Then I had my second audiobook of the month and also my first DNF of the month, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. God, I didn't like that book. I just thought it would be something fun to listen to while I did my Christmas wrapping and stuff. No, I didn't like it. The story I can't talk much for because I didn't like, it's only less than 4 hours long and I didn't finish it, so I can't talk that much for the story. But I definitely wasn't hooked into it, and the narration I just didn't like, and I don't think that's because he was doing a bad job. Like, he was putting a lot of effort into it, but he was doing all the ghost voices like this, and I just did not want to hear it. I just really didn't, so I DNF'd it. And then for Christmas, I got the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I started the first one straight away because I was so excited to open this. Oh, I loved this. I really liked it. We're basically following a group of young people. The main character is called Cassie, and she is a natural profiler, so she can just read people really, really, really well. She gets brought into this group called the Naturals, which is run by the FBI, and they're basically taking natural young people, so they're called the Naturals because they're naturally talented at something. So for Cassie it's reading people, for Michael it's reading emotions, for Leah, she's a natural lie detector. They're basically brought in to work on old cold cases that can't be solved of serial killers and solve them. And it was just so good. So it's a YA thriller, I guess. Would you call it a thriller? Oh, I really liked this. I went pretty much straight into the next one. Oh no, not pretty much. I did go straight into the next one. Really enjoyed it as well. Not quite as much as this one, but I finished that in January, so did I? Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about that today. But yeah, really excited to see where the rest of the series goes. I really, really enjoyed this, and I gave it 4.5 stars. And then, a week or so after posting that video that I've not had any 5 stars reads this year, I had a 5-star read, Unnatural Causes by Dr. Richard Shepherd. This is a medical memoir, non-fiction, about Dr. Richard Shepherd's experiences being a forensic pathologist. So a pathologist is someone who does postmortems and examines bodies after they've died, basically to see what the cause of death was. But forensic pathology means they've most likely died due to a crime. And so a lot of homicides, a lot of murders, and then also some mass disasters, So there was a boat crash, there was a train crash. He helped out with the Twin Towers casualties, but on the whole, a lot of stabbings, that's his area of expertise, is stab victims. I just find this absolutely fascinating. I do typically enjoy medical memoir, and this one was really no exception. I really enjoyed it. If you have any interest in that kind of stuff, I would really recommend this book. It's obviously not going to be for everyone, but I so enjoyed this. And I don't know if enjoyed might not be the right word because of the content of the book, but I just found it so interesting. And I just finished it and I was like, you know what? It's 5 stars. It just is. Brilliant. And then went back to the complete other end of the scale, another book that I got for Christmas that I asked for. All I wanted was sushi, but I got abducted by aliens instead, by Petra Palermo. Now, I was reading this and I was like, oh wow. And I said to my mum, I was like, Mum, did you and Dad Google what this book was about after I asked you for it? And she said, no, we just bought it. And I was like, oh, that's good. Because this is basically just alien porn. And I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. Now the author puts a note at the start saying basically like, this book is weird, be open-minded to the weird. So I was open-minded and I was prepared, but I wasn't prepared for that. Some people would really enjoy this, but it just wasn't for me. I was just reading it like, oh, okay, like, oh goodness. Basically, she gets abducted by aliens and then they sex traffic her. And she becomes like a human dancer for extraterrestrial enjoyment. Wild. Funny though. And then just to squeeze one last book in for the end of the month, Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. I love this series. It's a graphic novel series and we've been following Charlie and Nick since Volume 1 when they met and got together, and it's just so lovely and so wholesome. In this one, Charlie's a year older than Nick in school, so he's going to look at universities and they're like quite upset about the idea of being long distance and stuff. So that's quite a big deal for them at the moment. So that's kind of what we're following mainly in this one. Just love it. 4.75 stars, easy peasy. Definitely going to reread the entire series at some point and probably rewatch it. I think that, is there a new TV series in the works at the moment? I don't know, but I love this series. It's just wonderful. And I believe that's everything. So like I said, on the whole, a really great reading month, a couple of flops, but nothing major, and a lot of really high rated books for me, which is absolutely amazing. Plus my only 5-star read of the year. Although I will say it's currently the 7th of January and I've already had a 5-star read for this year, which is amazing. Yeah, really happy about that. Really happy with my month of reading in December and hoping to continue on the same trajectory in 2025 with lots of reading and lots of wonderful books. So thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.